Hey guys, it's Amber, and I'm going to be jumping right into process videos for day one of my Italy album. So I was showing you there how I had some plane ticket printouts that just didn't quite fit into the 6-inch pocket, so I folded it a little bit in the middle. You can see if you're looking really close, but from far away you can barely tell. Right now I'm just taking a scrap piece of paper and cutting a 4x6-inch block to mount those two plane tickets to. I trimmed one so they can kind of be layered and you can see both of our names. So just using a little bit of rolling adhesive because this is just simple printer paper and anything else would be just way too much. Adding a little to the fold so that it stays down and then a little to each side. Adding Jarrett's and then mine on top, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. I can't read it while I'm looking at it here. And then once all that's finished, I'm working on deciding some embellishments. So I picked that Just Landed card, which I think is Echo Park. It's been cut out of a sheet for so long, I'm not 100% sure. But the Go and the Passport stamp looking cards and the chipboard pieces are all from Allie Edwards' kit in 2019 from her travel collection. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out an embellishment. Like that blue chipboard there says traveling with you is the best, but it's not quite, like I'm struggling because the background of the passport photo is cream, the passport stamp paper, I mean. The Just Landed card has like a cream base, and then that Go card is like super bright white, and so are the printed tickets. So I'm kind of trying to find the right balance where I don't have like white paper on top of white paper and just kind of rearranging a little bit. So pretty sure I'm going to stick with that Trust the Journey heart chipboard in the middle of the passport stamp paper. That was actually part of the 3x8 cards that I cut down into two 3x4 cards off camera. And then I have that See the World chipboard. That is from July of 2018's Story by the Month kits, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but the July ones are always kind of travel themed. The story kit and the Stories by the Month. So looking at the geotags there and trying to decide I'm going to add one to that Go. In the beginning of the album, I kind of end up with little geotags everywhere, which I don't mind. I love them, but it was kind of like Geotag City. So I have one on my intro page, one on my map, showing where we were, one on my intro, like this page here that I'm working on. And I think there's another one thrown in there somewhere else as well. So it's just kind of like, slow down. But I do love those stickers that she came out with. So just using my paper piercer there to help me place that chipboard down. Sliding the cards into place. And I'm liking the balance that I found where I added the tickets to the top. The Go on the left is white, so it just kind of has a nice balance. And that Landed card is towards the bottom. So I'm just checking with my One Canoe 2 date stamp to see if it will fit into that little space. So I'm going to grab black Versamark VersaFine ink. It gets really crisp, fine details. So it's one of my favorite inks to use for that. And here I didn't even practice. Like I was able to tell that I inked it really well. And I just kind of wiggled it around front and back a tiny bit to the left or right just to make sure all the numbers pressed in. And then I'm just using a slick writer pen to write Italy. I thought for a brief second about writing Milan, Italy, because that's where we were actually flying to, but I just put Italy because we didn't really stay in Milan at all for this trip, which we have done in the past. So just tucking everything in and happy with how that's come out. And then I am getting ready to start on the back of that page. So I have a picture of us in our rental car, and then I have a couple different scene photos. That one on the top right there is of like the Alps, like the Dolomites. I'm not sure exactly which mountains they were, but just showing the blue signs and how they're in Italian. That ticket, I believe, was from like a parking area where we stopped. I finally had figured that out. That was actually from Bellagio, but I just included it. I took a second to look at our rental agreement to see if there was anything I wanted to like punch out, and there wasn't really anything interesting. It's all just very plain paperwork. I also considered removing one of the photos and sliding my international driver's license into there, but I ended up doing something completely different with that as well, which you'll see here in just a moment. So jumping to the next slide here, I'm taking this 4x6 like topographic map card from the 2020 travel kit, and I'm slicing it in half, which is something I had mentioned doing in my like intro video. It's interesting because I thought I was going to use a lot of blue embellishments for this layout because like my boyfriend's wearing blue, the road signs are blue, the sky is really blue, but there's also a lot of green in here from the scenery, and I ended up going with green. So I used that topographic map paper, and then that card that says worth every mile has like green tones, and that's from the 2020 kit. And then I found this card that was in the 2020 kit, and I had planned to punch these out. So I found my ruler, checked the sizing, and my 1 3/4 inch punch will be the perfect size to have like a slight border around the outside. So I was able to punch that out really quickly because they're not quite 2 inches. You can see they're in from the squares are 2 inches and the circles are inside of that. So punch that out, came out really well, nice and centered. And thought about putting it on the open space in the photo there, like of driving through one of the towns, and decided instead to kind of center everything on my 3x4 cards in the middle, which leads me to finding something else that will match and coordinates from the paper. And side note, that bottom left-hand photo is what the crowds looked like the entire way from like once we reached Como to Bellagio, like one lane, bumper to bumper traffic with like people running around everywhere. It was crazy. So I ended up cutting this 3x8 card from the 2020 kit. I thought for 2 seconds about using the top, but my intentions were to use the bottom as a journaling space. So because the lines match and it has a topographic pattern as well. So I can use that for journaling. I also took one of the grid 3x8 cards, chopped that in half. I'm going to save the top half for something else. And I'm using that to hold my ticket, the topographic map to hold the punch-out piece. And then I have this Pink Fresh Studios sticker sheet. These are really nice quality stickers. They're like a matte finish, really kind of thick. But I found the yellow arrow, and I can't tell from here what it says, but something about driving. And I thought that would kind of help tie in with a little bit of the yellow tones and direct drive back into the layout a little bit. I'm just sliding the sticker sheet away. And I also used one of the 6x8 silver foil stickers. I picked the one that says scenic route, and I'm going to end up putting it right in the center of that mountain photo. Nope, actually I put it on the bottom. I put it in the sky in town, I think, with a yellow geotag from the puffy sticker kit. So I'm grabbing some foam squares from Gina K. I really like hers because they're thinner, so they provide just a little bit of dimension. I also have ones from American Crafts with their sticky thumb line, but they're really thick. So I just want a little bit of dimension to pop that die cut off. I'm just peeling the backs off now, and I'm just using 3. It's just enough because it's really not much dimension at all. I'm going to just plop that right down in the center. And I was just making sure that the topographic map pattern was going the direction that I liked. And then there I am. So there was a bird in the sky of the photo, but like it's so far away that you can't really tell it's a bird. It just looks like something is on the photo, and I tried to wipe it away like 3 times before I realized it was not a piece of dirt. So I actually wanted to intentionally cover it up with the geotag, which is why I'm actually putting it there, because I wanted to use those stickers that said scenic routes, and it was really distracting. So that's actually why. If I'd have realized that it was there, I would have just cropped it out or edited it out when I was doing my editing. I just didn't notice it because it's so small, but it was kind of driving me a little bit crazy. So just writing really simple journaling, just saying after we, landed in Milan, we got our rental car, drove up, towards Bellagio along the coast of Lake Como. Something really simple. And I had just used that little scratch paper to test my marker before I started. I should have used a different pen. The Slick Writer was not writing well for some reason. It was like I kept catching like a weird spot that was like dry. So I was really surprised at how quickly this layout came together, partly because I just allowed the products to speak to me and I used everything from the kit, which certainly makes it easier to coordinate instead of going with all blues. So then here you'll see I'm just using my rolling adhesive to push everything back to back, and then I'll trim any edges. So I'll be cropping the majority of this out, just showing you how I do that. I do not like white pieces to show or things to look uneven, so I always back everything to each other, which is part of why I scrapbook chronologically. So I ended up printing another 12 by 12. I had this one in mind already when I was doing all my enlargements from my first process video. I just hadn't decided on what else to print out with it, and I ended up not printing anything. I tried not to print until I'm ready, but I just saved that 6 by 12 scrap for an enlargement. So I added that View digital word from Ali Edwards. It's a really old travel word kit, and I added some journaling in a similar color as well. I pulled from the sky or the mountain photos there, and it's just talking about more detail of what the drive was like, going through all these towns. And once we got up near the lake and we started seeing the lake in our view, like, it was just so pretty, and it just made us really excited to get to our final destination. And I considered briefly adding something to it, like some chipboard, going to the left hand side, like vertically, but I didn't want to like force something. So I might go back and add something later. We'll see. But I'm just for now sliding it into place behind my embroidered map that I had worked on in my other video as well. So I finally decided on a place to put the international driving permit, and I'm going to use some, not red line tape, but a really strong tape adhesive to hold it onto the photo. And I was thinking about using that cork map piece from the 2018 kit, and I ended up not using it. It just kind of, once I decided to put the permit on there, it was kind of just hanging out by itself, and it didn't have anything to like ground it. And I was going to put a title on here or letter stickers of some kind, and I just haven't decided yet what I'm doing. But I grabbed the road trip chipboard from the 2019 sets. It's like a black with gray, and I'm just going to put that kind of on top of the permit. So I'm just using that Gina K tape adhesive right now on all four sides. I didn't need red line tape. I didn't need something that aggressive, but I definitely needed something stronger than rolling adhesive because this booklet's a little thick. And it's kind of nice because it does just, I can put the base down and open the left side and the right side and still see everything if I want to look inside, but I didn't need to have it in a pocket. So it just kind of shows you there that I can still use it and view it even inside the pocket. So just using my paper piercer to help me align it there, but it sort of fell off, so I didn't really use it in this instance. And then just sliding it back into place. So I'm now moving on to my next layout. Once we arrived in Bellagio, it was too early for us to check into the hotel. So we parked the car and found like a restaurant for lunch because we were pretty hungry after the drive and everything of landing at the airport. So we found this really cute little pizza shop kind of up on a hill. And it was, overlooking the lake, of course. Everything there has a beautiful view of Lake Como. And I was trying to decide on some filler cards, and I also knew that I wanted to do a see-through pocket using a piece of the 6 by 8 page protector transparencies from last year's kit. that they came out in a wrong size, but you can still cut them up and use them, as a product instead of an actual transparency. So I'm kind of just trying to visualize what it will look like, because the fork and knife transparency is like a light mint green, and on the front side it makes sense because there's a lot of green in the photos, and on the back it's a lot of pink and blue from like the background photos. So it's just a picture of me like diving into a slice there. Our view of the pizza and the table settings. So here I found some cards from Ellie's Studio that say wonderful, and they have stripes, and they actually really pull from the colors of the photos like quite beautifully, and they even have like a little bit of a minty tone. So I ended up using these and putting all the rest of my cards away. I was pulling cards from the Eat mini kit from Ali Edwards that came out a year or two ago. So it says like best meal I've had in a long time. It's like a gray and green tone. And then I thought about using that chipboard heart there. And instead I'm going to choose that green Let's Eat circle. I also was going to use that like Eat logo, and I tried that yellow one that says so hungry or so happy or something. And then I thought about using these pleather circles in red or yellow to back the chipboard on the other side, but I end up actually remembering that there's rubber pieces in this kit, and one of them is a slice of pizza. So I thought that would be perfect, since we're obviously eating pizza and it's Italy and I haven't used them yet. So what I'm going to do is put the rubber pizza on the outside of the page protector using red line tape. But first I have to get my transparency card ready. So I'm taking one of my 3x4 photo crops that Simple Stories makes, and I'm trimming out the card, peeling off the plastic, and then making sure that it's going to fit in the pocket. It's a little snug, but I didn't have to trim any more off. Just making sure that I like the way everything's looking and what the pizza's going to look like on there. And then I thought about adding it to the card on the right hand side. Just trying to make a decision on what I want to do exactly. And I was having a hard time seeing visually through the plastic, so I pulled it out so I could kind of line it up a little better, but ended up again just still deciding to go with the pizza on the outside. So I'm measuring, I'm going to grab my ruler and measure what the chipboard piece is, grab a punch that I think will be the right size, just using some scrap paper to punch a white circle. The back of chipboards like that, brownish gray cardboard color. So I'm going to pull the transparency out. I'm going to apply our chipboard down. And then on the back side, I'm going to just use some tape to adhere the white circle down. I just don't really trust rolling adhesive with like these kind of like clear transparency materials. So I'm just using something a little bit stronger because I don't want it to peel off. And then I'm going to use the red line tape, 1/2 inch size, to cut a chunk of tape and apply that to the pizza. If you use anything else but red line adhesive, it will like almost react and melt your rubber piece and create a disaster. So best to stick with that. And I'm really happy with how that came out. And here I am backing things to each other and trimming off the excess. And then at some point I do journaling, but it looks like I skipped that on the video. So moving into the next layout where we are checking into the hotel and like dragging our suitcases, I am using pieces from the 2020 travel kit, which are that this travel story, the memory 1, 2, 3 card, and whatever the filler card says in Allie's handwriting. On the upper left-hand corner there, I took one of the 3x8 cards, and I totally stole this idea from Allie's Product Play 2 for travel course, where she was chopping them up and rounding the corners and just applying them to photos as like a label. And then I had this 3x4 geotag from Allie from a few years back that I thought would make a fun see-through style embellishment here as well. And it's funny, I usually don't just throw in a filler card with a random travel quote anywhere, but I had gone through my stash and was having a hard time finding something that would go with these photos, and it kind of blended the colors really well, and it is travel related, so I decided just to go ahead and throw it in there. But as far as my memories, they were talking about, there's a funny picture of my boyfriend on the bottom left. It's kind of cut off, where he's like in the tiniest little elevator with both of our suitcases, taking him up to our room. And I met him up there, so we were just laughing about how small he looked in there. And then a second memory was kind of referring to that picture of me in the hat. Like, it felt like we were on the surface of the sun when we were simply walking from our car to the hotel. Like, I was sweating my butt off. It was insane. And it wasn't even a far walk. It was just so hot. And there was no breeze. It was very humid. And then our third memory was just simply about our view from the balcony, which is on the second set of photos. So I hope you're finding some inspiration, and I can't wait to share more. Thanks. Bye.